Today on the show, the gang gets hacked. Spencer has friends. And what the fuck is a protein wall? Like, seriously, for real. It could refer to like a million things at this point. Today on Anime Binge Club, hit the theme. What's up, everybody, and welcome to Anime Binge Club, the only podcast that's still being introduced like that. I'm your host, Spencer Damn Crinton, and coming with me live is Spencer motherfucking Day. What's up, Kevin? No, Spencer.
Hey,
What's up, Spencer? I said
hey,
Spencer, right?
yeah, that's fine. That's fine. I'll be Spencer this week.
All right.
You know, every time I watch that intro, it gets better. I don't know what there is you did in this, but I love it a little bit more every time I see it.
Yeah, so I shouldn't tip my hat too much, but I have already recorded another music video, and boy howdy does it, in my opinion, not hold up at all to this first one that we've done. Like, it does not. I don't know, it does not work. I mean, it doesn't not work, it's just not as fucking epic. I don't know, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I mean, that's the problem with sequels. How's the hot sauce, Kevin?
The hot sauce is good. Where did I put it? I've got Taco Bell's new hot sauce that I am trying today. It's actually pretty good.
Yeah, he's going to be
That's
sipping
my
on
mini
that during
food
the
revolt.
podcast.
Yeah.
What did you say?
Actually, I am going to be sipping on that. It is pretty good. Me and Spencer were talking about it before the show. It's actually surprisingly good. It's their dish of hot sauce.
Yeah, me
It's
and
a
Kevin
limited
talk.
time thing. Yeah,
Me and Kevin are friends, you guys, off the pod.
we are. We talk occasionally.
And you know who else is my friend? Oh, our guests. That's right. We have guests today on the show. It's Jeff Eckman and Ryan Kasmiskie. What's up, folks? How you doing?
Thanks for having us back on. I can't wait to talk about this episode.
Yeah, excited to be here.
It's interesting.
And also, I'm
go ahead.
excited about new Taco Bell hot sauce. I didn't know about that.
Yeah, me either.
I think the fast food hot sauces are underrated. Anyway, I'll try to give that a shot.
Kevin, do you want to talk about it a little bit? I want to just first say that Jeff actually sent the group chat a picture of like organized hot sauces, and then like within an hour or so, Kevin sent like, have you heard about this new Taco Bell hot sauce? And I was like, whoa, what the hell's going on?
There was an empty slot in that guy's tackle box of hot sauces, and I don't know what's supposed to go there. Maybe it's waiting for this.
I hope so. Yeah, this dish of hot sauce, which I mean,
Comes in a little box and everything. Like, you get a whole box of food. It's actually surprisingly good. It's probably my favorite Taco Bell hot sauce, but it's not a Taco Bell hot sauce though. This is a only limited time thing. This is some existing bottled sauce you can already buy now, but they're putting in little packets and charging you 20 cents each for them. But it's not like a Taco Bell fast food hot sauce. It's like more of like I don't know. It tastes more authentic, I guess. It doesn't taste like fast food hot sauce.
Yeah.
So I won't be able to get this when I go to Taco Bell after this?
You can, I think.
Yeah, it's for another couple weeks. I think you can still get it at Taco Bell.
Okay.
You might have to like get it through the app or something. There's like some bullshit that you gotta, like, it's not simple, but it's definitely doable. And they're also releasing like a special limited edition vinyl album of some sort. This is like a person. I don't know anything about the person. I don't want to be like, who the fuck is this guy? And then they're like, this is like, the king of Mexican food or something. Like, I don't know. But so that actually reminds me that Taco Bell is doing that. It's like this kind of higher prestige thing. And then there's also Treehouse Tacos was doing something with Del Tacos. So this is like in the air, these kind of like higher rent promotions.
Yeah, that was bad though. I don't know if you tried that. I felt like it was not very good. The Treehouse Del Taco.
Mm-hmm.
I had it.
I think you warned me away from it, so I didn't go for it. I was going to until you told me, and then I was like, yeah, I don't even like carnitas that much anyway. I don't know. But that was Assorted Bitching Corner, our first segment on Anime Binge Club, the only podcast that has to force an ABC pun for everything we do. But coming up next is, I've been making you guys watch this show, and you haven't been on every single episode to talk about it. So I was curious, what are you thinking of Eva so far? You have any big picture thoughts before I get into slightly more specific questions?
I'm liking it a lot. I felt like there was the run of episodes from once Asuka is introduced up till now was like blowing me away. I really loved every single one of them.
Yeah, I think obviously Misato has some like of that same energy. She just has more like active kind of energy, and that's kind of nice to counterbalance like everyone else who's just like miserable.
Yeah, it was just the episode premises got like really fun and a little sitcom-y at times, and I felt like the mix of that with like the high stakes mech battles were great.
Yeah, like Asuka adds like a great character conflict energy that, like you said, it adds a lot more comedy and stuff. And she just plays like she kind of heightens all the dynamics with all the other characters that are existing anyway and adds her own new stuff. But yeah, what about you, Jeff? Any big picture thoughts?
I just feel like it keeps building, and I'm starting to finally see later than I probably feel like I should have the episodic kind of nature, like what elements are going to happen in most episodes, because some episodes have a different pace to them than others, and I think that makes them feel really different from one another. And that, like, I'm glad that it's not a show that ran for like 20 seasons or something, or like that just had indefinite time, because I feel like I'm around like a third of the way through this thing, and I want to see where this goes in all the stuff that they've been setting up. I'm so curious about, and can't wait to see the next. I guess we're about halfway through.
Yeah. So Jeff is more familiar with like I don't know, prestige is the right word, but just Western television, like very popular series and stuff. Like I haven't watched a lot of that stuff, but like I've always been a big anime fan, and to me, it's always just been like, obviously with Lost and stuff, we started doing these mystery boxes and these kind of like episodic shows as opposed to more serialized series in the West. But like for me, it's just like a big thing about anime is like, look, we're going to do 26 episodes or 12 episodes, and it's going to be the whole thing, and there's not going to be any more, and it is going to be a resolved plot. It's just over, and you're not like, oh, what happens next? Because it's like, that was the end of that story. And I was always so fascinated by that as a storytelling form. And it's like, why can't we do that in the West? And then, we started to do more in that. But I don't really like the way most of it tends to go, because it feels like it's kind of trying to split the difference. Like Lost, for instance, it was supposed to be a shorter series that had like defined end dates, and then they were like, you can't do that, you got to stretch it out forever.
Lost actually really straddles the periods, because it started in the era of it needed to be a procedural show that's going to run forever. And so the first 3 seasons, they were supposed to run forever. They had 22 episodes per season. It wasn't until they were in the 3rd season of Lost and they were like doing an episode on how Jack got his tattoos that they were like, I don't think that this show could run forever. And they decided to do 3 more seasons, each one being 18 episodes each, which is like so much more than shows do now. But I think that it suffered by the fact that it ran 22 a year for 3 years every year too, not like you get a few years in between to figure out how are we going to reset this season, or all those different crazy things. And they had to kind of when I rewatched the show a few years ago, I realized the task they had laid for themselves was like fixing the roller coaster while people are on it, and realizing like we can't even pay off these things, so let's just like have them drop away or say that they drop away, whereas like a show today would hopefully have, like a show like Severance seems to have everything really, really dialed in. We'll see what it does in season 2, but that one seems way more like they're going back and reshooting stuff to make stuff later make sense that they realized they wanted to change. And if you were airing, like you're halfway through season 4, you're like, shit, that is a much better thing to do, and we didn't do that, and that episode earlier this season's already aired, so it was just a harder thing as it transitioned into in both good ways and bad ways, smaller television that has more like a movie.
Yeah, and I just like that. I don't know. I think it works really well. Another thing about anime, I don't think Eva was like this, but most anime is based on manga. And so manga is interesting because it's like they might have outlines and stuff, but they really are building it as they go. But at the same time, by the time it gets to the anime, They know what the script is. Like they know the whole thing, and they can change it, and sometimes they do. But like ultimately, it's like they have this whole complete, really fleshed out story, and then they just run through it, And so it's interesting. I don't know.
Yeah, something I was going to say that I'm loving about the structure of this, as opposed to all of like how the serialized television is that we mostly watch now, is it still is like hitting the Saturday morning cartoon like notes for me, where like all of the big reveals are kind of like in the background. You'll get a piece of information, but it's like not the focus of what's going on. And so the episodes aren't hanging on these like reveals of like revelation. They're just kind of like peppered in as you go. And the focus is like so on the action, and like, it just, I don't know, it feels good to me. Feels light and airy and quick.
Definitely. I really feel like the episodes feel like they go by. I think, it's interesting because like they all feel, I don't know, sometimes you feel like you're really sitting in it, but it still is like going by, it's clicking along. And then I just feel like the way it's written is just like, it all flows together so well. It's like in the opening scene, they talk about something and they just say one thing. And then the following scene, they follow up on that one thing and that folds in this other thing. And like by the end, like everything crashes in together, and it doesn't feel forced. It doesn't feel contrived. It doesn't feel like Chekhov's gun. Like it just all feels like really tight, well done storytelling. That's all character driven. It all feels really well earned. And yeah, I think like it's just amazing. In that sense, at least. Any big confusing things? You have any theories or big like what the fuck is like? I don't get this stuff. You might have wanted to look up or even did look up. Anything like that?
I mean, that mostly started coming up this episode, so I don't know if I want to we'll probably dig into that as we go over it. But just like, I love that they have started dropping in that there's some kind of semantic confusion going on. Like when they revealed that the second impact wasn't an impact, I was like, okay, that says a lot to me that I think I'll speak more on later.
Yeah, same here. Like I'm most curious about like what caused these cataclysms and how much human involvement is there in the angels. And in what way did we create this problem? Are we even united in trying to stop solve the problem, which it seems like in many ways we're not, but is our goal still even the same as each other? Everybody, all the characters in the show. And it's just hard to know like what's happening at the highest level.
Go ahead.
I have like a theory, just like, because you were asking, like, do we have any theories? I was just kind of like sitting back, like, what do I think is going on? And I don't know that this is like what's going on, but I was thinking like, I assume that humanity created the first angel with the intention to like control it or use it as a weapon, a lot like building the atomic bomb. But then once you build an atomic bomb, you just like escalated the scale of all things in war. And if I was thinking like, imagine if an atomic bomb suddenly went rogue after being created and became this thing that we can't seem to squash, that's fighting us. And it's like, now we have to build other atomic bombs to fight it. And now we have a world filled with like unreasonably destructive weapons. And the scale of war is like fought at that level now. And it's like, it mirrors the Cold War if it was hot. And that every time there's like a newer, bigger bomb that goes off or used, it's like we have to build a bigger bomb to combat it. And I feel like the story starts at like the center of a conflict like that, like where you're in the middle of building like one of the H bombs that's like far into production, but then like you start seeing more and more of the picture surrounding it. And eventually you like, hopefully will, I'm assuming we'll learn who the Oppenheimer is of this whole thing.
Yeah. It's interesting because, like I'm pretty sure how the lore works is the first impact was like ancient history or something. Like no one remembers it, but they just know there was a first impact. But the second impact was really fucked. That's what fucked everything up. And then we come to learn the second impact was not, a second impact. It was some shit that went down. And then like, so we know that. But then when you see it in Misato's backstory, it's like there's screaming and there's like glowing dragonfly wings, and it's like, what the fuck was any of this? There's like a big base there, and obviously there's like a precursor to the pilot plug or something that like Misato is getting shoved into to get saved. It's like, so what the fuck was going on there?
That was the flashback in the Arctic, right?
Yeah,
when they were on the I thought that was so ominous, and another thing I just am really, really intrigued by.
Yeah. To Kevin, what about you? Any big picture things coming into this? It's been a while since we've kind of talked in general about this show.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think initially when I was watching, because I've never watched any anime before at all, I think I was really just learning about anime the first 5 episodes or so.
Yeah.
And like everything was like new and shiny and colorful, and I didn't even know what was going on. And the more I'm watching it now, the more I'm starting to pick up on things, and the more I'm feeling like things are metaphors for other things that, but they're not being explained. Like I'm trying so hard to avoid spoilers and like not like ruin anything for me, but it's so hard for me not to like Google stuff that I'm seeing, because like I wanted like my normal thing would be to just like binge watch this entire series all at once. And this is so hard not to do that. But like I keep going back to like little bits and pieces that like seem significant, but weren't explained, like don't ruin this for me. But I'm like, I keep coming back to that like quick half-second shot of the human-looking fetus, and I keep going that has to be something.
Yeah,
but it's not
they call it Adam.
yet.
They call it Adam, and then in this episode, they say like, "Oh, it's uncomfortably close to Adam," or like, "We can't let it get to Adam," or something like that. So yeah, that's like a seed. That's like the first seed was seeing this alien thing, and this is like the second reference it actually gets, I think, basically in the series. So yeah, that's like a starting thread.
Yeah, like pieces are starting to come together that I'm hoping they're going to pay off the way I'm imagining they're going to, and I'm really looking forward to watching each one. You don't know like how hard it is each time I'm watching an episode not to just like let it keep playing and watch all of them.
I wonder if there's a way we could do that. Just I don't know. We'll figure it out. It's hard to build we're building the roller coaster as it roller coasts. It's funny. You don't think about it, but roller coast. That's what they do. Oh, did I say roller coaster? I can't talk today. Jesus Christ. And I can't say it's because of weed. It's just me being stupid. This sucks. Okay. Episode 13. Just very quick summary. It starts with some tests. Shit starts going weird. It seems like they're being hacked or something, or there's something happening. It turns out that it's the 13th angel, or it's one of the, I don't know what number angel it is, but it's one of the angels. And it's a new kind of angel. They call it a nanobot microbial colony that evolves into an AI network is what it is. And so that's like, the angels have gone from a big monster to like a weird monster to like a giant D8 to like this eye spider that cries tears to this like giant floating satellite that drops bombs to the fucking like a cellular computer. So it's like getting, what an angel is very much changing. And then they deal with it. This is kind of like Ritsuko's biggest episode so far. But yeah, that's the larger episode summary. Any big picture thoughts on this episode before I go into the kind of play-by-play?
Okay, so this felt to me like it was like a bottle episode. Like they were told they couldn't do a lot of new animation or something. Like the whole thing was so weirdly contained to that like room, basically. And even the premise of it, I was like, what's even happening now? I was like very confused. I had to watch it twice. I like when they were doing the tests, I was like, what is a simulation body? Like they had so many jargon words that they didn't define that I was like totally lost the first time through.
Yeah.
And it was honestly the first one that I didn't really like. I was like, okay, but like it wasn't bad, but I think it's my least favorite.
Yeah, they've been having these money saving stuff, and different episodes are like they had to save a ton of money, and this was the most money saving episode for sure, which is very bottle episode.
Yeah. That being said, it has a ton of interesting shit. Anyway, that's all I got. Go ahead.
Yeah, like when they talked about the assembling nanobots, I was like, wow, I'm surprised that they had such an idea of that in the 90s, even though I'm sure that those ideas were like very much on paper, because I remember reading like in Pop Sci magazine in 2010 about like the block bots that assemble themselves into like little snakes, and then they like figure out what they need to do and stuff. And so I just loved the idea of a nanobot angel a lot, and it made me realize the structure of the episodes in general by seeing like, oh, this is, and then a new form of angel appears, but it's such a unique idea each time so far that it doesn't feel like, oh, here's yet another episode. It's like every episode feels vital to me. And the whole hacking finale, it was like visually represented well to me. And I particularly loved, I hope I'm not jumping ahead, but like the way that the back, like they open that pathway into the center of the brain, and there's just post-it notes all over the place of like explaining how to do this stuff. And it just made me think about like if that was in 2001 and Dave was going to like kill Hal, and he goes into the room where he like opens up all the stuff and there's just post-it notes everywhere, and he's like looking at a smudged thing just trying to read this thing, and it's like, I can feel it, Dave, and he's like, I don't know what to do next. Like
yeah.
So he scribbles.
Kevin, what about you? Any big picture thoughts this episode?
I mean, I liked that this was a very like AI slash cyber warfare heavy episode that I think would have read differently to me if I watched this 5 years ago than I would today. And it was written well enough that all those concepts carry forward and seem believable with what we have current technology now, that wasn't around when this was made. So I like that aspect of it. I think that was really forward thinking of them and very, more hard sci-fi than some of the past things have been. But yeah, I really like the overall vibe of this one. But yeah, I agree. This one seemed very cheaply done, but I like the story. I just, could have used a little bit more action maybe at times in it.
Yeah, for sure. Did you have anything else, Ryan?
Oh yeah, I was just gonna say I really needed to see the kids through the whole thing. I was like, are they just unconscious? Like, what's happening to them? Do they not know what's going on? Do they just? I
love when it cuts to them and they're like, "Shit, would somebody help?"
Well, yeah, but I mean, like their whole that's like the end, like the whole episode. It's like the simulation bodies are sitting in these tanks and they're just on their computers, like the corrosion is getting in.
Yeah.
Anyway, that would have been that. I think that would have helped me
It would have been nice to just get a shot of them confused, not knowing what's going on, and just like sitting there incapable of doing anything. Because what I got out of that was I was thinking about the way somebody in the middle of a large war could find themselves cut off and not able to, like, they're just like out, still functioning in their own way, but just like stuck somewhere in a submarine or something like that. But it would have been nice to check in with them.
Yeah, and I mean the whole opening is like they're being like degraded in this like particularly vexing way, and then like the whole time if they, I don't know, if they were having some kind of like, man, fuck these people, more. I'm so sick of this, like they don't even treat us like it, just some kind of thing in there. But anyway, but it felt like it was full of important information, like what the Magi are, and as Jeff, as you were saying earlier, that it seems like every angel is like totally different. And then when it got to this one, and I had realized that the second impact wasn't an impact, I was like, angels are not angels. Like this word is like meaningless. Like every single one of them is like just some completely different thing. And I'm hoping that I'm like right on this, that it's like a semantic confusion being used by this bureaucracy to like hide the truth. Because I think that's really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's this very clear air of like what's going on, and the specific language they use is really part of that, especially like the biological language they use, which I think I was taking on maybe a more literal level until this episode. And then I was like, well, now I think most of it's just techno babble and it doesn't actually have any clear analogs. But yeah, I don't know.
Well, it was taking over the pituitary gland.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's like, does that real? But then in that sense, there was a real body that might have had a pituitary gland. But they also talk about the Pribnow box, whatever. But so the Pribnow box does not correlate to actual biology as far as I could tell, but we'll get there. But this episode, it's like you were saying, it's all old animation or very cheap animation. As the timing ramps up, what they do is they keep cutting back to scenes they've already shot, right? So it's like you see two guys saying something to each other, and then they cut, and then like they cut back to those two guys in the same shot doing the same mouth moves, and they cut, and like towards the end, it's getting faster and faster. The cuts are getting faster to ramp up the tension, and they're just cutting back to shots they already did and already did and already did, and it's like that's the tension, is how fast we're moving between shots we did. It makes me think honestly, some of the most expensive animation, obviously, anytime Evas are moving and stuff, that's expensive. I think the drones might have been a little, but the drones actually kind of were sliding around. They weren't animating so much. So even the drones were kind of money saving. But like you were talking about, like you want to see the kids. The kids at the end, that was probably one of the most expensive shots of the whole episode. So like maybe they literally couldn't do it. I was thinking when you were saying that, it's like, I feel like if you cut to them early, it might cut some of the tension a little bit or something, but then they could have done it.
Well, that's what I mean is like they didn't use the kids to add any tension at all, you know, right. Which to me just feels like, I don't know, you should, but you don't have to, but it just seemed like it was sitting there waiting to be explored.
Yeah, that made me think that it's got to just be a money thing, but who knows? Who knows?
Totally.
But so it starts in the beginning. They're running some tests and saying computer jargon. There's this new character or a character. She's been on screen and stuff, but I think they finally call her out. Her name's Maya. And she's kind of like a scientist person. So she's more like Ritsuko's underling, whereas Glasses Guy, who I think they also named Glasses Guy in another episode, but he is more like Misato's underling. And so we see her be a little interesting or whatever. And another thing I was going to say is this episode is like huge for world building concepts. Like there's no action. It's very confusing. But if you're someone who really digs in on like the lore and what the fuck that is, like I think they're doing a ton of stuff. They talk about, and again, it's not clear how important any of it is, but they say like, oh, we're conducting apoptosis on the Avas, which I looked up, and apoptosis is like a planned cell death. Like if a cell just explodes or gets infected and destroyed, that's like a kind of cell death. But if the DNA has a pre-programmed destruction loop in it, like to kill off, for instance, like a cell that is seen as irregular or something, like that's called apoptosis. And so I'm like, why are they conducting that on the Evas? And it's like, I guess that's kind of like a cleaning sort of thing. But then like, you know, as the episode goes on, it's like the self-destruction thing. So like apoptosis of the Evas is like a theme that is like carried on through like the final conflict. They like kind of conduct some sort of version of apoptosis on the angel to beat it or whatever. But I don't know, just like stuff like that was really weird to me. But they're just doing science. You know, this is like Ritsuko's episode for the most part. Like we haven't seen very much of her inner life. And honestly, even in this episode, we still don't. We just learn about her backstory. Not a lot how it affects her, really, you know, other than it's just like, yeah, she's a cool scientist lady that takes everything on herself, you know. But she's running diagnostics on the Magi systems. And, Misato comes in. And again, like they're seeding this idea that Misato and Ritsuko have some friction now and again. And also I think it's just in Misato's character, but Misato like grabs what we believe is probably Ritsuko's coffee and starts drinking it. And Ritsuko's like, that's cold, you know? And she's like, ugh. And so it's kind of like, I was like, oh, is that like a power move? She's like, haha, I'm taking your damn coffee. And Ritsuko's like, I don't give a fuck. You didn't take nothing but cold coffee, you bitch. You know? And I just thought that was kind of fun. It was like, I really think Ritsuko's like an interesting character, and like we haven't learned very much about her, but like the little glimpses that we've got are really interesting. Like the things she focuses on, the things she values, like she valued in the atomic robot episode, are really interesting. It's like she's clearly a really cool character, but we just get so little of her. What did you guys think of her this episode? Like, did you feel like it changed your opinion of her? I don't know if it really changed anything, right? But it's just more of a fleshing out.
Yeah, I was like, I really loved that she got her like badass anime moment of like basically showing us that she can like just negate all of her emotions, like when she's plugging into her mother's brain while basically not reacting. And I felt like it's like just another great scene that's happened for other characters where you get this sense that like whatever is behind this whole program is like so important that like these people involved will like put aside anything sacred for a chance at success. Like, and it was just so like cold blooded.
Yeah.
the whole way it went down. I felt like there's obviously more there. Mm-hmm. But it's like, you know, however she deals with her past, she puts up this front of like just completely, like no emotions. Whereas, Misato, we saw she has like some crazy past, but she like, puts on this like sort of like clownish front where she like isn't serious, even though we know she is. Anyway, no, I thought it was great. I thought we got like a little more depth just into their familiarity with one another. And
I think that like Ritsuko is like this classic science, and it's also this like cold woman kind of trope that shows up a lot in anime. And usually that's like a smart or scientific character. And
he even references that element.
Right,
At the
exactly.
end.
Yeah, that's like a big part of like all of those ideas. And it's also like, I'm sure it's kind of outdated, but like they're definitely, this is like a recurring idea in a lot of anime. It's like, oh, like your role as a woman versus your role as like a human being at conflict with each other or something is a very straight. But yeah, like I think it's interesting that we don't really know what she's gone through, but we get the sense that if she has any trauma or baggage, it has to do with her mother on some level, but it's not clear how bad that is. You get the sense it's maybe not as bad as what Misato got through, especially after seeing like the flashback and stuff.
Yeah.
But, they're kind of character foils in that sense. And we're seeing like, oh, Ritsuko maybe is more privileged and didn't have as much of a problem. But as a result, she's kind of shut down and takes everything on herself, whereas Misato is like, she had nothing. So she had no choice but to like really engage fully in like solving the problem and involving herself and other people. And, we see them kind of differ in that sense. You guys got anything else, Jeff?
I think
or Kevin?
Misato's awesome. And she might be my favorite character in a lot of different ways. Like the way that she balances humor and kind of doesn't take things too seriously until she needs to, and then she takes them totally seriously. Like, I think she's the kind of person who I would respect the most and want to be like the most. And I think what this episode gave was it felt like she and Ritsuko have like a longer history and a better understanding of one another than I realized before. And I felt like that's what the coffee moment said to me, is that like they really just know each other so well. Like she can grab her coffee. She's not going to be mad. She's like, oh man, that's cold. And it's like, ah, damn. And then Misato was like, knew how to be there in a way that wasn't getting in the way in the climax too, in a way that was helpful to Ritsuko, and they were working well together, and not kind of getting in each other's way. I just thought that was cool.
Yeah, like at the crucial moment, Misato is very much interrupting Ritsuko's flow. And
Right.
it's not like
Right.
seen as like this is a problem you have to stop. It's just like, yeah, this is how we work together. Were you going to say something, Ryan?
Exactly.
Oh, I was also just saying there's like a moment early on in the show where Ritsuko seemed to like notice and understand why Shinji was like hurt that his father had like paid special attention to
Ray?
Oh God, yeah, Ray. Sorry, I have all the characters up. I just can't remember names.
It's all good. No, I gotcha.
And when she's talking about her mother, I got the sense that she probably grew up in a situation that might be similar. My guess is might be similar to Shinji, like a cold, like hateful parent that she, had a difficult relationship with, that now she can reprogram the brain or whatever. Like she's sticking needles into it. I don't know. Yeah, I definitely can't wait to see more. It felt like a lot of setup for a bunch of different stuff going on this episode.
Definitely. What about you, Kevin? Ritsuko thoughts?
I mean, big picture, I guess, I really enjoyed the character building of her in this one because, I think I maybe mentioned this before, but like it seems like a lot of, especially Western TV shows would dedicate the first 1 or 2 episodes to world building and character development and introduce all the characters all at once. And you basically, that's all the character building you get up until events happen later. And like the fact that they're dropping this, 13 episodes in of one of the probably, I'm going to bet, is one of the more important characters, in this. They waited this long to even give her backstory is really nice. I keep going back to this, but like I really like this feeling of like they're not just spelling everything out to me, and they're not just telling me in episode 1 who this person is and this is how you should feel about her and this is how you should feel about him, and they're just doing the slow drip that really worked well in this one.
Yeah. So like one line that she has early on, it kind of foreshadows the whole computer plot, is she's like talking about the Magi computers or something, but she says like, oh, mother's healthy as ever. And meanwhile, I'm getting older and stuff. But so, yeah, the kids are going through decontamination. It's kind of like, I don't know, it reminds me of like Ebola virus, like the hot zone, like trying to like get super, super clean, which kind of sets up the idea there's been contamination problems. And what the fuck does that even mean? It's like they're robots. Like what are germs going to do? So I think that kind of folds into like this idea that contamination is a problem and it's causing weird issues, and
I read that more like it was radiation cleaning, like it was a Silkwood shower. Like they were trying to scrub all of the radiation skin off of them.
I think they said explicitly though, like you need to be perfectly clean because we
decontamination,
can't have, like,
right, because of the germs and stuff. Yeah, okay. Yeah, it was like all about how they were going to respond to their bodies without the suits and stuff. So yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. And then they go into like the testing, which is super not clear exactly. I have an idea about it, but I kind of wanted to like look into this more, just do some research. But they say like they're trying to do synchronization without the plug suits, but it's not just the plug suits. So apparently the plug suits that they're wearing like help synchronize the machines to their brain waves or something. Like they help sync up their nerves. And when they get in the suits naked, they talk about how like it feels way off. Like she says she can, like Asuka says she can like feel her hand, but not the rest of her body, which is like, oh, it's like fucking with their nervous system somehow, you know? And so that's like, there's weird metaphysical shit going on, which is obviously implied from how like, you know, Shinji can feel his arm getting hurt, but it's just like whatever's going on there is really weird. And then they also say that they're having the Magi test autopilot functions. So like potentially having the Magi autopilot the Evas. So maybe they won't even need pilots in the future if these tests go well. But then they're not testing this on the fucking Evas themselves. They're testing them on A, simulation plugs, and B, imitation bodies. So it's not clear. I think that the idea is that the kids are in these fake plugs that aren't real plugs. And so now they can kind of remote control. So they don't have to be directly plugged into the Evas. They can be in simulation plugs, and then the autopilot can read their impulses and use that to inform how they control the imitation bodies. And then the imitation bodies are clearly not the actual Evas. And this is just guessing. I could be way wrong, but they're not the Evas. They're like these new bodies that they've been growing in a vat. And we already know that the Evas are somewhat biological from like episode 2 or whatever, when the thing's eye grows out of its socket or whatever. But it's like, in a lot of the language, it's clearly biological. But it's like, so these are like fake test bodies that, and it kind of underscores like how careful they are with this stuff. They're not just going to like plug in like the Magi computers into the Evas. That's insane. Like we need to grow fake bodies, put the kids in fake plugs, keep them separate, you know. And so again, like with this decontamination thing, they are doing a lot of work to isolate and keep everything really separate and prevent it from the exact kind of problem that happens, which is some sort of contamination and hacking.
Well, the only way that could go wrong is if this simulation was somehow to be hacked and controlled in some way.
Yeah, exactly. And I have a question, like, I'm sure, like, the past times I thought I watched this show, I thought that when they lose radio contact in the last episode or whatever, I thought that was because this angel had already infiltrated the systems and was like doing stuff. But now I think watching this episode again, I'm like, I think they would have like noticed if that's what was happening, because like they're so clear about the hacking that's going on that it's like, I think if they were being hacked, they would like know. So I don't know. So now my theory is more just that the satellite Ava was somehow disrupting like radio communications or something. I'm not super sure.
I had that thought, and then I dismissed it. But then when there was the comment about, oh, another leak, didn't we just have one of these a little bit before? That made me think, oh, maybe this wasn't the first time this happened then, but maybe that was just a throwaway line about, you know, their base being run down. I don't know.
Yeah. And then so Misato like thinks that Ritsuko made the Magi, but Ritsuko's like, no, I finished the Magi. Like my mom invented the fucking Magi, and then I basically like pressed the button and turned them on or whatever. Like she kind of did the final leg of the journey, which is a bit interesting. It's also, I mean, I'm sure it's just like, that's how you do storytelling, is someone doesn't know something they obviously should know so they can ask the question to the camera, you know. It's like Misato almost certainly did know that, but you know, it makes it work. And so they're talking about there's deterioration. That's kind of the first hint. There's deterioration of like the protein walls or the Pribnow box or something. Like, and so again, they've been saying this all at like the whole series, you know, like in the beginning, apoptosis, like they're using biological terms. And so like, it's not clear like how it all works. Like they say that this area was made after the angels attacked. So they're like, oh, it's just sloppy work. Like we're just rushed and tired. We're not doing a good job. And that's why there's contamination. But no, it's clear that this is actually like from the EVAT something. And we see this wall corroding. And then when it actually gets called out, when they notice it's corroding, they're like, the protein wall is corroding. And they've talked about protein walls so much. And I was like, I thought that's just like some gross goo that's inside the EVA, but they're looking at a fucking wall made out of metal or some shit. And it's like, that's a protein wall and that's corroding. And I'm like, now what the fuck? Is that made of protein? Are they just calling that as a metaphor? Like, what is going on?
Was it the metal wall that was corroding, or was because they kept showing the wall that they shot the lasers through or whatever, but like I couldn't tell if that was corroding or if they were, because there was like a readout they were looking at that had, it was like a hex.
Yeah.
That had like the red moving along it.
Yeah. So that's like their
and I was like, I thought they were talking about the corrosion entering the bodies. I might be wrong though. I could not tell.
Yeah, well, that's exactly it.
They were talking about just the wall. I'm not sure though.
That's the thing, is it's not clear. But like to me, the thing is, like, we see a wall that looks like it's corroding, and then they go, the protein wall's corroding. And so I'm like, well, they must be talking about that wall. But there's other times where when they're talking about protein walls, it seems like they're talking about pieces of Evas. So like you're saying, it could very well be that they're talking about some protein wall structure inside the imitation bodies, right? And and they get messed up too. Oh man, did I just delete my whole notes? No, I just made a new one. That's good. That would have been bad, huh?
Maybe the protein wall is what you hit when you're working out and you don't have enough protein. You get tired really fast.
I swear to God, I've been hitting the protein wall lately. I've been getting hurt, and I think it has to do with like not ingesting enough protein. I'm trying to protein max lately to kind of solve that problem. It's
you gotta, break down that protein wall.
I mean, I think I need to build it back up maybe, but so to me, but yeah, my takeaway is that wall was literally the protein wall, but I don't think it's clear. And then the readout is the thing about the readout is I was thinking that until they evacuated, because there's this thing they're calling the Pribnow box, and it shows up on the readout. It's like, here's the Sigma unit, here's the Pribnow box, whatever. And what I believe, this is my current theory, and it's not necessarily right, but I think that like they're in an area that's being called the Pribnow box for some fucking reason. And when they evacuate, they're like, the Pribnow box has been compromised. Like, and then you see it like going outside, and that's when they like shut off all the walls. And so like, I think like they're in something called the Sigma unit of the Pribnow box. And that is in some way being contaminated on a lot of levels, not just like that one wall, but it is the imitation bodies, and it's all those things.
Well, there was like a moment where like the hand of the simulated body like started reaching towards Ritsuko right before they evacuated and the water rushed into that room. Is that the moment you're talking about? When they evacuated that room?
Yeah, when they evacuate that, then you go back to the readout and you see that whole area that was just starting to get infected. Now that's all red and it's going outside of that area. And so that to me is like, oh, they've lost control of this whole module of NERV HQ or something.
Okay, yeah, I think you're right. That went straight over my head. I watched it 3 times. I did not like understand they were talking about the building they were in.
It's very confusing. And here's the thing. I looked up what Pribnow box is, and it's like it's like a collection of 4 polypeptides on a single piece of most DNA that's important for RNA transcription. So it's like, if they're really talking about a Pribnow box, they wouldn't be talking like, you wouldn't have a thing that says Pribnow box. That would be like having a thing that says like 4 sequences of DNA, right? And so that's the only reason why
maybe that's the function that room has, is like it's interfacing with the RNA of the simulated body in some way, and because it's like doing the function of a Pribnow box, it's kind of like the way that often, I can't think of one off the top of my head, but like it's like another thing in science, but now we have it as a machine, and so we call it that.
Yeah, and I think that's maybe a decent reading too, but it's still more metaphorical. It's like we're calling this that because it's mimicking this function. It's like the lab that does Pribnow box shit.
But I was definitely intrigued about the hand reaching out to her and what exactly that meant. Unless it's like her mom's brain reaching to her, and maybe she was thinking about that.
I thought that was the angel has hacked this body. Like we've lost control, and it's going to try to destroy, because they noticed it's an angel when it like starts shimmering, and then right after that it goes to attack and they blow its arm off.
Yeah,
so maybe it was just her being scared. I thought I was maybe reading too much into like the way that she was paused when the hand was reaching out. Like maybe it was just like, this can't happen. This is impossible.
Yeah, I thought she was like, oh, we're gonna die.
It definitely was this weird, hard to read moment, because it's like, why are you just standing there? This is like a huge problem. And it's also not clear who pulls the trigger, because so like basically how the exact play-by-play works is like there's corrosion, and then do the polysomes happen first.
I love that they get like an alert that like there's corrosion, but it's like above us, so whatever. And then like a minute later, they're like, it's on us. Shit, we should have shut it down earlier.
Yeah, and that other module, they're like, you make sure you fix this by today. Like, don't wait. Fix it now. Otherwise, Gendo's going to be fucking pissed. And then it's like, no, it's already at our doorstep, you know. But like the first thing that happens is like there's the corrosion. It's spreading. So they deploy polyzomes, which are these defense drones. And I look up polyzomes, and polyzomes are like something that are similar to ribosomes. They're these bodies that are involved in RNA transcription. So like RNA is like a part of, it's like DNA exists, but it's inert, and RNA is like how DNA functions. It's like it makes RNA, and then RNA does the job, right? So polysomes are part of like actually moving RNA around and using it, and also cleaning it and keeping it not fucked up. Like they're part of like repairing it. So they deploy these drones that I call polysomes, but they're not polysomes because polysomes are pieces of RNA basically. And but it's, again, it feels more metaphorical. Like these are robots that are cleaning this thing to prevent contamination. And so they're looking at the contamination, and then there's some break that happens, and they're like, oh shit, shoot lasers or whatever. And they try to shoot lasers, and then AT fields go up. And that's what's like, oh shit, it's a fucking angel. Like whatever this was, it's deploying AT fields, which only angels do, or Evas. Those are the only two things we know of that make AT fields. And so then it's like, oh shit, this is like a fucking angel. And so then like it starts moving, and it's not super relevant, but it happens to be Ray's imitation body that's moving. It's not anyone else's. And that's when, like Jeff was saying earlier, that it's the pituitary contamination, and the body it starts to attack, like, which is another mirroring of like when Ray's test in the early episodes goes haywire, and like it also reaches through and it's starting to bash on the wall and stuff, you know, and it almost takes out Gendo. But it's like, so that's happening again, but someone pulls the trigger, and again, it's not clear who, and they pull a trigger that the trigger's function is to blow up the arm. There's just how many triggers are there that are like blowing up different pieces of the body? Like, but it's exactly what the doctor ordered, right? You know, it solves the problem.
Maybe they outfit these things the way that, like, when you're doing rocketry testing, you actually have a bunch of explosives on them that are, I think, or I don't know exactly how it works, but they have ways to trigger remote destruction so that the rocket doesn't wind up going way off course and like landing in a residential area. Yeah. So that's why, like, when you're watching a rocket test and it like starts to turn on its side and then it just blows the hell up, it was self-destruct to make sure that it stays in that area. And I imagine with the Avas and the testing that they would have all sorts of ways to just like take it down fast and not let it spread further.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's definitely like the analog. I think that's what we're to understand is happening for sure. So then there's this shot of the phone call, like a phone call happens, like Gendo is like lying, or no, Gendo says, I leave it to you. And he's basically told them to do some bullshit and then like lie to the government. But in those shots, like, if you guys watched it on Netflix, you would have seen the same stuff, but I don't know. You know, I'm I got a good eye for this stuff. The frames look dirty. They have this like glistening, sparkling sort of situation where they just look like they have like, I don't know.
Yeah, the blacks are like, have like film grain. Like,
yeah,
I know. I noticed it.
Very strange. It happens in a few more shots, but again, if you're thinking about like this is all money saving, it's like maybe they couldn't even like fix whatever the fuck that was. Kevin, I think, has like DVD episodes that he's watching, which presumably are cleaned up. Did you notice any of that, Kevin? They might not have been what you watched. You're muted, Kevin. Sorry.
I was sneezing earlier. Yeah, no, mine had that too, and I was wondering if that was like deliberate or not.
Yeah, it reminds me of like there's this, I don't know what it was, but there's like some movie where there's like a bunch of flies, and then like as part of the end of the episode or the movie or something, like a fly is like walking on the screen and you're like, oh shit, it's happening to me. And it's like, and so I was wondering if that was like, it was like intentional to kind of make it feel like dirty and gross, you know, because it definitely does. Like it adds to this kind of like, what the fuck is going on kind of mystique. But yeah, so at this point they say the Pribnow box is compromised, and then I'm like, okay, so this is just like, you're just calling shit. Like, I don't think this is actually a Pribnow box. Like, I don't know. They say Gendo says it's getting too close to Eva, or Adam rather, not Eva. It's getting too close to Adam, which is that alien prisoner thing that we saw. that I think Kaji got. I think Kaji's
Adam
the guy
and
who actually
Eva.
stole that.
Sorry, I'm sure that's obvious.
Oh yeah, no, I mean it does take a while to figure out Evangelion is like Eve, and then Adam, it's like, oh shit, Adam and Eve. And it's like, yeah, this clearly involves somehow, but it's not clear what that means or why. But it's like, yeah, we're using, and if Adam is like something related to Eva or the angels, it's like, oh, I don't know what's going on, you know. But it's gotta mean something. And then an interesting thing is like Gendo puts it together like before everyone else, but like it's infecting the imitation bodies. So Gendo's like, oh, this is clearly going to try and affect the Evas. And so they jettison the Evas to the surface, get them as far away as possible. And I think before they blow up the imitation bodies, they say they jettison the pilot plugs. And again, I think we probably would have seen this if not for just this was a bottle episode. They needed to save money, you know. But they say, oh, we jettison the pilot plugs, and that's why these kids are somewhere way else. They're just in the ocean, you know, at the end of the episode. But we don't see any of that. I gotta imagine it's money. But so, and I think like again, it's like Gendo is like he's smart, like he's thinking so far ahead, like no one is on this level. And they're like, what the fuck are you talking about? How are we gonna fight this thing without Evas? And he's like, you don't understand, like we can't fight this thing with Evas, you know. And he doesn't even explain that, but he's just like, do what I say, you know. And then at some point Kaji pops up and he's like, I don't know if he's doing maintenance. To me, it looks like he's this shady character, and it looks like he's just doing some shady shit. And he just pops up and he's like, I can't do my shady shit right now until this whole situation is worked out or whatever. And that's like his only appearance in this episode. Did you guys have any thoughts on that?
I thought that was real funny and strange, especially since I've been like, after his behavior in the last few episodes, I've been waiting for some shoe to drop with this guy. And is this the one where he jumps off the elevator like into the shaft? Like the elevator is like stuck and he crawls out of the roof and is like, well, guess I'm late for work.
I think that is
and jumps into
it's like a really fast shot of him like jumping into a hatch, and I was like, whoa, what a scary jump.
Yeah, he's like that's like a badass anime.
It does make me wonder if he's sabotaging this place or something. I mean, he'd be an obvious shitheel, but I don't know.
Well, right now, and again, I know stuff that happens and I know stuff that doesn't happen, but right now, once I was saying that, I thought that this angel maybe hacked in the last episode, and then once I realized it wasn't that, I was like, I wonder if like Kaji hacked him in the last episode or something. I don't know, like, and that's not a question that ever gets answered or even like comes close to being answered. Like, it's never revealed like Kaji is the kind of guy that would have hacked them in that episode. Like, it doesn't reveal that or anything. But so yeah, they try to use ozone to kill the angel, and it's starting to work, but then it evolves and they're like, holy shit, it's evolving. We're seeing a lot of the same shots over and over. It's like, oh, we're saving tons of money. And then it starts hacking and they're like, oh, it's like a microbial computer. It's hacking NERV, and it's trying to hack the Magi, and it hacks Melchior, and it starts trying. And so how the Magi works is there are three systems that vote, and it hacks Melchior and is like, okay, we're blowing this thing up, but you need a majority to make a decision. So it doesn't have a majority yet. It only has one brain, and it's saying, let's blow up. And they're like, no, what are you talking about? And so then it starts hacking Balthazar, right? And so it's going really fast. Like, it's all about to go down. And Ritsuko's like, change the time sequence to every 15 seconds or something, like slowing down the internal clock of it. So instead of like cycling like every microsecond, it's cycling like every 15 seconds. And that buys them like 2 hours. And this is like where Ritsuko kind of goes into like battle mode, and they're like, we should kind of destroy the fucking Magi. And she's like, no, we shouldn't do that. And this is where they announce like, oh, they're nano machines that evolved into AI circuitry. And yeah, we see like, again, the friction between Misato and Ritsuko is like, Ritsuko never asks for help. She's always shouldering the burden herself. And that's like totally the book sort of stuff. It's like, she can't ask for help. She doesn't know how to ask for help, you know? And then her, this is like a really like, this is like something that I think comes back in the end of the series, but like in isolation right here, it doesn't make any fucking sense to me. But it does feel like it's like the first mention of this larger theme. But like they're like, we got to use evolution against it, you know? And then they go like, oh, why? And it's like, oh, because the ultimate end of evolution is self-destruction, death itself. And it's like, what?
Yeah, that wouldn't hit me. I was like, what are we?
What are you talking about?
I was like,
I see your point, though.
Yeah, it's like, I don't even get what they mean. Again, that's why I think it like taps into themes that come into play later. But like,
eventually you're going to destroy yourself. Eventually, you're smart enough to kill yourself.
The whole point of this is for us to kill ourselves in the most expensive and complicated way possible. That's the goal of this program, right? Like
that's why it feels philosophical. It's like someone saying something about the human race. Because if you're just like, that's what biology is. No, it's not. Biology isn't trying to kill. It's trying to only not kill itself. You know, it's such a weird statement. And then Ritsuko says something that's basically the opposite. She says, oh, if we can put in a situation where it's forced to choose between dying and peaceful coexistence, then it'll choose coexistence. I don't know exactly how she phrases it, but that's also not seeking death. Like if evolution is seeking death, then saying you have to choose death or peaceful coexistence, then it's not choosing death, which is the ultimate end of evolution or whatever. Like, so that's a plan. Go ahead.
This reminded me of like the war games question, which is like, you know, what's the only way to play or the only way to win is to not play. And that's the ultimate evolution of the thought process of like, you get to the point of like, well, we're either all going to die or we could choose to live peacefully together by not playing this game. So we got to like speed this thing to that thought.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, definitely. It's weird. This whole part is. Yeah, go ahead.
It didn't feel like they sped it to coexistence, did they? Like it destroyed itself.
That's the thing. It's not really clear. Like the actual end game is not really clear. Like I don't know what they did, but what she says here. Go ahead.
Oh, my big problem with this episode is that all of the action happens in dialogue, and sometimes it like contradicts itself, and it just sort of ends with them going like, "We made a decision," and then it's like a binary of like, "Did it work or not?"
Right.
And I'm like, I don't know what decision they just made, but yeah, it's working now, you know?
Yeah, exactly. That's what's weird because again, like the only thing they say is maybe it'll choose like peaceful coexistence. So if that's what worked, then we're to believe the angel's still just chilling in the computer. It's just fine now. It's not a problem anymore, which is weird. But it's not clear if that is what happens. But then again, part of our plan is like, let's connect Casper directly to the angel. And again, it's like, how is that going to help? Like it's not explained. And that's something that just isn't explained at all. It's just like, we're doing computer stuff. We're counter hacking, but it's like, how is like, what it did is it connected to Melchior and then took it over. So why is connecting it to Casper going to help at all? And so like, it's not clear. Maybe it's because it's on the slower mode. And now I don't know, who knows? That's apologetic.
I felt like that was like the way, because that was the one that she was going to go into and it was like fully clear. So like you could maybe get a hacking foothold.
Yeah, that is. Yeah, definitely. That is what happens. I'm just not sure how that actually plays out. Like if they get that foothold, I guess it's like a new firewall that it can't penetrate and then they can hack back because it devolves into a hacking war of sorts, you know? So I think maybe that is it. They shore up their defenses and then they go to war. Maybe. Ryan, were you going to say something?
Oh, I was just going to say like, it worked because they said that's what they were going to do. That's what happened. You know, I mean, I don't like believe there's like a logic behind it that I can follow.
I'm not saying you're wrong, but I simply must pretend there is until proven.
Okay. I think she was working from the last place that was going to get hacked. So it was like the last, if you were working from the other thing, then you would have gotten taken over halfway through your hacking, but you had a little bit more time before you got taken over.
I mean, I think this one worked because it was the last one they tried before the end of the episode.
No,
like,
I agree.
think my favorite, anyway.
Yeah, no, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I that's the thing is that like, if you take everything as gospel, it still doesn't actually make sense. You know, you just have to fill in the dots yourself. Kevin, did you have any thoughts on this whole debate?
Yeah, no, I'm so glad you guys were as equally confused here. I was like, well, I'm not getting this at all. I have to wait and listen to see what these guys think because this must be a metaphor for something I'm just not getting, or they're leaving things vague. Is this going to pay off at the end, and then it didn't pay off at the end, and then I still am confused. So yeah.
Well, it's a metaphor for women or something, right?
I don't know what it's a metaphor for. I just didn't get it, I think. But this seemed a lot less clear than past episodes in like, Definitely. Hey, this thing is happening. Here's why. Here's the result. It seemed all over the place.
it's kind of a clusterfuck of we don't have the animation to show anything, and we're hitting the hard wall on all of our jargon that we never figured out. It's like now we have to use jargon that we never figured out to explain something that we don't really understand.
I'd say they hit the protein wall.
Yeah, exactly. And they talk about protein walls so much in the series. Like, it's very notable. That's like the thing they talk about the most. But yeah, so they open up Casper. It kind of goes up. And we see all these pipes and shit, and it just looks bloody. It's like that's kind of the first kind of like seed that we get of what's to follow. It's like there's these pipes, but they're not just pipes. They have like red stains, which the LCL. There's this red fluid that's elsewhere in the series, so it's like, is it that stuff? I don't know. Maybe it's that, but it always has this kind of gross biological like vibe to it. It also feels very Serial Experiments Lane, if that's a series you're familiar with. But that's a really cool anime as well. Maybe we should do that sometime. But yeah, inside, like Jeff was referring to, there's a bunch of weird notes and documentation posted everywhere. And then that's like the plot device. Like Maya or whatever is like, with this, we can save the day. And it's like, how does this save the day? That's like if you open up a car and it's like, here's where you do the car. It's like, what is that? It's just, you should know all this stuff anyway. You don't know how the computer works. But yeah, so that's kind of the plot device. So Misato is kind of working with Ritsuko, and from here on, like, she's been very Misato mode before, but from here on, Misato is very motherly, I think, and she's being very warm and compassionate, kind of how she treats Shinji a lot of times. And I noticed that it felt very intentional. And so they talk about there's this technology called personality transplant into organic computers, and that's the technology that controls Ava. Obviously, Ava's involved organic computers in some way, and apparently how they do that is with personality transplants. It's like they're live transplanting the Shinji's personality into the fucking Ava. That's how they control it. And her mom invented that technology, and so yeah. Then she saws into the So obviously I knew, and obviously you guys saw it, but she's sawing with like a circular saw into this dome-shaped metal compartment. Jeff, you're more medical, but like in that moment, I'm like, this is what you do to cut open a skull to get to the brain. Did you clock that before the brain reveal?
No, I didn't, and it made the brain reveal work even better, just in terms of like, I suddenly realized what she was doing, and she's like, you could say it's like my brain or my mom's brain, and just like a brain is like a very clear brain is there.
I don't know why, but I was expecting the brain. I think I was just taking her words literally because she was talking about putting brains into computers.
Definitely.
But
I think my mind was too much about those like post-it notes, and I was just like enamored with this like backdoor, there's like, I listened to podcasts from programmers, and they often talk about like the notes in programming that like explain and that like annotating your code is like a huge element of skill, and that like, because you want somebody in the future to be able to understand why it works this way, and if they make a change, like something, but like it all just being post-it notes of like maybe passwords and admins of like shortcuts. I was like, I love it.
Yeah. What were you going to say, Ryan?
Probably distracted.
Oh yeah, but no, I didn't clock. You're totally right. It's totally like trepanation. Like they're cutting like a little tiny hole in this like skull. I didn't know. I didn't really think of that.
Yeah, and here's the thing: they call it an organic computer. So, like, I'm not sure if we're to believe that's literally her mom's brain. It might just be that organic computers are like cloned brains, So, like,
I mean, if you were to call an organic computer in the real life, you'd be like, well, that's brain. A brain is what you would call that.
And
for sure.
Like, if you wanted to invent that, it might be the case. It's easier just to grow a brain and then put programming into it, right? Like, then it would be to either build one yourself or just like turn an actual used brain into a computer. Who knows? But I think regardless, it does make the most sense that is actually her mom's brain, and that's why she died making the thing, and that's why Ritsuko had to finish it, because she's like, I got to put my brain in this thing, honey. Like, you're gonna have to take it from here. Like, very, very crazy stuff. But yeah, and so like, and then the second computer, Balthazar, gets hacked, and it's trying to launch self-destruct. And again, we know that the computers are 2/3 majority, but they're even with 2/3 majority, it's not self-destructing. And so that's like, oh, that's pretty smart. It won't self-destruct until all three computers decide to self-destruct. That actually is a pretty cool failsafe. But yeah, and this is obviously like a really clear analog of when Misato does her hero move moment, climbing into the robot and trying to like move the control rods, but it's like this is Ritsuko's turn. And the it all happens really fast. There's a lot of quick shots to shots we've already seen before and they're already animated before. But I just like the line where Misato's like, "Do you have enough time?" And she's like, "Dude, like we have almost a second to spare." Like, not only is she like so good that she can hack within seconds, but also she's like, she knows exactly how long it'll take her to finish beating this unknown threat. Like that's crazy, and then it works and everything's fine and we're all fine. And again, if it's to be believed, what works is they force it into a position where it has to choose between evolving until it dies itself or peaceful coexistence. So either it's just there and now it's evolved into a benign state, or it evolved into killing itself. And they don't say which one it is. It's just, it's over now. Like it's fine. And it's just a weird thing. And then we see that the kids got ejected somewhere. And then that plays as comedy. Like I think obviously it would have made a lot of sense to like show a lot of that stuff, and they didn't, probably just for money saving reasons. But it does have the effect of it hits a lot funnier as a joke, that it's like, where were we this whole time? Oh, we were here. God damn it. It does kind of.
See, I didn't even realize they had been ejected the whole time. I thought that happened like right before I saw them ejected. I thought they were like sitting in those tanks, like in the bodies. Obviously, a lot of this I did not digest as I was watching it.
Well, they don't show it. They're literally like, you have to put it together like mentally, because they don't like there's a quick line where they say eject the plugs, which plug is a pilot
and I was like, for me, plugs still isn't like in my vocabulary. Like plugs is like a thing in the wall. I was like, okay, this is
but I think that's perfectly normal. Yeah. And also, normally when they eject the plugs, we see them eject the plugs. So like you don't see it. Also, we don't even know where they are. Like, and they're in dummy plugs or something. So they're not actually in the imitation bodies in the first place. You can see that in some of the shots that they're connected by all these cords into the dummy bodies are connected by cords. So they're not actually connected to the plugs directly, which is normally how we see it. So they're not in the tanks per se. And we don't see where they are. We just see like these infrared readouts of them, which don't move, and they're just a readout because, again, it's cheaper to do that than to animate them being in the plugs. Like, it's all like, I think to the extent it's confusing, a lot of it's just because of money,
I think definitely it would have been great to have seen the plugs get like shoot out of the ground and then travel and land over there. But I did I didn't feel like it was totally necessary to see that, because I remembered back to an earlier episode where like they were underground in like a testing area, and I think the plug was like doing the ejection thing and it was like in the corner, and then it like flew over to the other corner and stuff. And so I got to put together in my mind what happened. Would have been nice to see it though.
Well, but also it's just so many things are happening and so much jargon is being thrown around. And so it's like, do this, do that, eject the plug. So it's since we're not seeing any of it, we're just seeing static faces. I think it's really easy to like miss any given thing that happens, And then, at the end they say, oh, the Magi, they were the scientist, the mother and the woman. And then one of the last lines or whatever is like, Ritsuko is saying the woman held on to the woman in her held on to the bitter end, and that made me cry for some reason. I don't know why. I have no idea like what was going on there, but that really touched me for whatever reason. And I don't think that makes very much sense. Like, again, I think it taps into this weird sex, like sexist ideas about women and stuff in the media and culture and stuff. And so it's not like necessarily good, but it really did affect me on some level. But so that's that episode. Kevin, you got any final thoughts on the episode? We haven't cut to you very often.
No, I mean, I like this one. I'm glad you guys were as confused as I was. I'm still a little torn on what's metaphor and what's reality. I'm hoping that's going to pay off, but from the sound of it, maybe not. But I like this one. It was just, it's really off the path of the other episodes so far. And I'm not sure if this is just I like this as a little of a detour, but I just wish they explained things a little bit better.
Yeah, I agree. I actually really love how much world building happens in this episode, but because of that, I wish it was, more well explained, because it's like, this is extremely my shit. And like, I'm grasping at straws trying to figure out what the fuck a Pribnow box is. What about you, Ryan?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I think the world building stuff is super cool. And to me, it's almost like, they needed an episode where they explain what the Magi are. And so they did a computer hacking thing, but it unfortunately like falls into the trap of a lot of computer hacking things, which is that it's all like happening in a computer, and it can get really confusing and like it just kind of like run itself in circles. My favorite, like I thought the funniest moment was when they start trying to pump the ozone in to kill it, and they're all like, "Oh, good, it's working." And then there's this beat where it's like, "I wonder if this will work." And it's like, I think you're like barely into the episode. It's like, of course it's not going to work. Like I was just sitting there waiting, like, okay, come on, fail. Let's get to the next one.
That was the lupus of this episode, to put it into House MD terms.
For sure. And I think that's interesting because, again, if you talk about microbes and stuff, ozone does kill microbes. Like, it's not good for humans or anything. It's poisonous, but it is used as like a disinfectant for some things. So it's like interesting that like I don't even think they know at this point that it's a microbial thing or it's a microbial angel, or they know it's an angel, but they don't know what the deal is. But the idea, it's like, oh, just like with other microbes, we could kill it with ozone. Anyway, what about you, Jeff? Any final thoughts?
Yeah, I guess I appreciated that even if the jargon didn't totally make sense, that it was all kind of from the same area of science, which made me think like, oh, we're in the cellular DNA level of the way these things are interacting. And I guess that's also kind of why they thought to do the hacking thing, because you're kind of, everything in a computer is happening on such a microscopic level. And a lot of that happens in the human body. So let's play with that for a bit.
Definitely. I think it's like, it's exploring these twin arenas of like the weirdness of the biological side of it and the weirdness of like the computer side, especially when it was made, it was like this super cyberpunk, like kind of high tech dystopian shit on some level, so it's kind of cool to see like how dark it is on some level. It's like, this is my mom's brain. Like, that's what's making this all possible is my mom's brain, and like,
we stick some needles into it.
Well, yeah.
And fucking like Misato's dead dad, all these people are like, they went into off the deep end of science, and that's like very involved in what's happening. What were you just going to say?
I was just going to say, while I didn't love the episode, it does like strengthen and deepen these themes of like super organism, but like like this new Neo Tokyo is like the way it operates and what the Evas are is really like we're inside of a body. Like everyone in the command center is like operating different parts of the systems of these big living organisms, and I just feel like thematically that is going to, like with my predictions of where I think this is going, I think that's going to end up being really important.
Yeah, this is basically Inside Out too, Okay, so before we end, I just want to ask you guys, did you, any of you can answer, do you have any thoughts of where the names Melchior, Balthasar, and Casper came from?
Well, I recognize them, Melchior and Balthazar, from Square Enix games and Squaresoft games, so I know that they come from somewhere because but I don't know.
No guesses, other guys?
I wanted to Google it, but I'm afraid I'm going to read spoilers, so I didn't.
They're the three wise men from the Bible.
Oh, shit. Okay.
The Magi. The three Magi.
The three Magi.
I never connected it either until I looked it up. I actually did have a quick Magi quiz, but I don't think we have time for that. But anyway, that's our show. Thanks so much. No one can know about this. Check it out. You guys have any better plug to do than just me saying that? Like, I'm sure you could do it.
Go check out our podcast. No one can know about this. We play Final Fantasy games and we bullshit for a long time, and shit gets crazy.
This season is Final Fantasy 9, and we're almost done with it. And Spencer's been on a bunch of episodes, and if you want to go binge some Let's Plays of in an audio form of Final Fantasy games, go listen to our show. No one can know about this.
Yeah,
the first audio Let's Play.
It's true.
Well, there's contention about that. Daniel K's Let's Plays, I think, was on the air before.
No, side are you on?
When he's
like, what the fuck, man? Like, seriously?
When he comes on the podcast, we can tell it. Yeah, if I have him on the podcast, we can say he invented it, but he's not. What about you?
You're right. We invented this.
Yeah, exactly.
We did.
No, just check out Spencer's Patreon at patreon.com/thesixlur and come join us on Reddit, maybe.
There you go.
That Happens Pod on Reddit.
Yeah, if you say mean things, I will moderate your post. Some guy was like, Spencer's going to be saying Jews control the world, and I deleted his post. And he's like, "How dare you? You're a fascist." And I'm like, I think it's pretty standard for like people to like the if you say on someone's like YouTube account like you're a Nazi, like for them to remove the post. I don't know, whatever. Anyway, that's all. So how do we actually end this when it's anime style? Okay, so now it's time for another lesson from Spen Pie. Hit it, Spen Pie. Hey kids, are you ready for some anime culture lessons? On today's lesson sode, learn this the Japanese word for the third king of Wiseman fame is Casper. Goodbye.